Okay, welcome back to my channel. I have not recorded in so long. I just haven't been in the right space for it, the right headspace. But I finally I don't know, I just found the courage to kind of get back on here and to finish what I started. So this is going to be night 3 of ayahuasca, and I think I'm gonna do this in parts, and this will be part 1 just because it's so long and it's such an in-depth night, and I don't want to waste people's time. So if you want to split it and watch it in 2, I feel like that just makes sense. So I want to just kind of go over where I left off. So I have to actually go back a little bit because before we get into what actually happened on night 3, which is such a big night. And that's because one of the things that I wanted to mention was that every single day, I think I've said this before, that every single day after ayahuasca, there is, or the following day, there's always a sharing circle. And sharing circle is basically where we get into a circle and we talk about our experience the night before. But the last one that we did before night 3 was actually a sharing circle plus partner work. Like we had to go one-on-one and pick a partner and kind of talk about our experiences one-to-one. And so this thing happens where basically I get partnered up with this guy that I don't really like that much, and I don't know him. We're all strangers to each other, doing this thing, going to ayahuasca. I think I'm gonna look up here because I feel like my vision feels awkward. And so and basically what ends up happening is we have to partner up with people. And again, I don't know why, I don't know if he's not the vibe. I can't explain it. Sometimes you just don't like somebody for no reason. They're just you don't vibe with them. There's no reason for it. You just don't. But anyway, so we get partnered up. We're in the temple doing our sharing circle, and then we have to do partner work. And and so everybody partners up really quickly, and then all of a sudden I'm without a partner, and he had come in late. So he comes in and I'm like, oh great, now I have to partner up with this guy. Anyway, I don't know why, but that's just, I'm sharing that. And so we partner up and we have to do sort of this one-on-one, one-to-one stuff where we sit in silence and we look at each other, we stare at each other in the eyes, and we share our experiences about what happened. And there's silence and staring each other in the eyes. And really, it's really lovely stuff because, this is the kind of stuff that seems awkward, but when you're in a safe space and you're doing it, it's actually quite nice, and everybody's lovely, and it's a wonderful thing. I wish we did this in schools more and stuff. But anyway, you're kind of feeling very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable thing to do, but you're in the right space for it because everybody's there to do this with you, right? It's not, it's this really nice, part of the connection part of what we're doing. So anyway, so we start sharing our experiences. And one of the things he shares with me is that this is the second time coming back to Aya. He was there the month before, and you weren't supposed to you're supposed to at least take a 1-month break before coming back, which is why they only offer them monthly. And so, this was the second time back. And so he was saying oh, I was here before and I just wanted to get, more clarity on my mission, right? And I found that I'm finding that clarity that, it's to be more creative. And so, we're just sharing stuff. I'm like, oh, well, that's really nice. Really nice, huh? Right. And he's like, what about you? Because you also remember choosing to come to Earth, right? So what about you? Tell me your thing. And so, listen, I haven't had the in-depth experience I've had yet in night 3. So I'm kind of going, yeah, I remember choosing to come here. I remember choosing to be a girl, all the snake stuff I told you about being the snake and coming down to Earth and tune. And so we're having this, this little whatever. And I actually end up liking him. I'm like, oh, he's nice, right? And it is one of those things, especially with a man, when you're doing a partner, one-to-one sharing, with a man and you're staring each other in the eyes and you're doing that and you're in a safe space. It was really nice. So I actually kind of like him in the end anyway. And so fast forward and we get to night 3, right? And did I say that he was and I want to get more information on my mission on Earth? Yeah, I think I said that. Okay, because it's relevant for later. So anyway, so we fast forward to night 3 into the medicine, and because I had such a rough second night, I didn't really have a very in-depth experience in night 2. It wasn't a very good night. I make a vow to myself, I write it in my journal, I will behave myself and I will listen to everything you have to show me, and I'm going all in and everything. So I will surrender. I surrender. So night 3 starts like any other night, but this is a very deep night. So we can choose the quantity of ayahuasca we want to take. Number 1, we can choose the quantity, and they open the night up to a second dose. So you can do a second dose and jape again. And a jape is like a snuff. It's you snort it, the shaman snorts it up your nose, and you kind of come back to real life, reality again. And then, like I said, there's a second dose at one point they offer through the night, or some point during the night. So night 1 starts the same as any other night, where once the shaman opens the ceremony, he calls us one by one to take our dose. I think I doubled up on my dose. it's been so long now, but I think I'm pretty sure I doubled up on my dose. And then we all get back to our beds, you know, and then they shut the lights off and we allow the medicine to kick in, like to work through our system. And then of course, at one point the shaman starts to beat the drum and to awaken the medicine in us again. And this time, so everything is much the same, except for this time, I'm not the snake coming down to earth. This time I have this very like, I'm in this awareness where like so instead of being the snake, I'm kind of like, I realize like, I open my eyes and I look, and instead of being the snake coiling through earth or slithering through earth, I realize I'm staring up at the stars, right? And I'm staring up the stars and I realize I'm actually upside down staring up at the stars, which feels odd to me. I can tell that like I'm looking up at the stars, but I realize I'm also upside down looking at the stars, if that makes sense. Like I'm not looking at the stars, I'm upside down looking at the stars. And so then I have this awareness of sort of being in this like sort of chameleon body, like a chameleon. And I literally like, I realize like it's almost like I'm hanging on a branch, like hanging upside down, up and staring up at the stars. And I kind of turn around and turn over and I realize like I'm among all these very like beautiful sleeping reptiles. Like there are like, I don't know, like thousands of us. And we all have the most beautiful colors of like light, like spots of like light on us. Like, so in night one, everything was very like ultraviolet, like in Avatar, but like in the movie Avatar, or not even like, sorry, like in, like when you watch like a BBC documentary and you see like the night vision stuff of the reptiles and their night eyes, it's all like that. But this time it's like an Avatar, like it's like on ecstasy. Okay. This is like everything, all our spots, we all have spots on our bodies. All of us little reptiles have spots on our bodies, and it's like light is shining through them. And I was like, whoa. And I have this feeling of being home. Like literally, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home. And it's almost like I arrived like on a festival day. Like this is what I thought for so long, until now I've seen so many like near-death experiencers that it feels like I'm on a festival day. Like everyone's like happy to see me. They're all like welcoming me back. They're like, hi. They're like all happy to see me. It's like everybody's jumping around and they're in this happy place. And I'm like, wow, like wow. And I'm just happy to be back home. And it's just like this beautiful thing where I'm filled up with all this love, and it's just so like lovely. And I feel like I'm meeting with people, I don't know, other beings, if you will, that I know already, right? And this feels very, by the way, this is not on Earth. I didn't mention this, but this is not on planet Earth. This is like in another dimension, another planet. Like I'm at the time I would have said I was on another planet, you know, but another dimension of consciousness for sure. Now that I'm like, you know, I know a bit more. And it's just love and happiness there. Like it's just love and happiness, and everybody is so loving and happy. And I can't even handle how like wonderful like it is to be in this place and be back home again. And I just kind of carry on like that in that space for a long time. And finally, I'm being shown things where they're showing me different things, and like, you know, I can't quite explain it. I can't quite get it all in like one, does that make sense, in a good explanation? But I just know I'm home. And I'm having this wonderful thing. And then the mind starts to talk to you, because the mind starts to make sense of things that it can't quite conceive of and understand. So the mind starts to talk to me. And so I'm like, wait, what's Earth then? Like, what's Earth? Why am I on Earth? And then I'm realizing like, wait, I'm not from Earth, then I'm from here for sure. And this feels like love and home. And then it starts to like take me down like a not so nice spiral where I start to think of like, okay, well, if my Earth is not my home, then this is my home, then like, what's my mom? Is my mother my Earth mom? And like, what was this place? And then I start to like, the fear starts to set in, because the mind starts to, again, try to make sense of what you're seeing and starts to like rationalize what's happening and stuff. And you're like, well, what is this effing place? Like, what is this, whatever. And so, but then I'm also filled with love. When I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this place is full, like so loving, and I feel so at home. But then I'm like, but what is Earth? I'm like, why am I on Earth? And what's going on there? And what's my mom? And like, da-da-da. And they start to try to show me things, right? They start to like veer me here and veer me there. And so every time they veer me to the direction that they're trying to show me, I'm like, oh, that's lovely. I'm like, oh, it's so nice. I'm like, yes. And then the mind catches me again. And it's like, and then I'm like, I start to think about other things that are not like, again, or I start to like, I guess if you will, like fall off the path again, where like the fear starts to set in about like, and starts to find like logic in what I'm seeing. And then like they bring me back, and then I'm like back in this like loving place that I am absolutely adoring. I'm like, yes, like this feels like home. Like I can't get enough. It feels like home. And so then one of the most tremendous things happens, because I can't remember if this happens before or after. Oh my gosh, it's been so long, but I can't remember if this happens before or after, but I have this moment, I think that happens after, where it's all becoming too much. It all starts to speed up and it's all becoming too much. And the mind starts to, like take advantage and play tricks on me and, whatever. So at one point they turn the lights back on for jape. I can't remember if they turn the lights on for jape or second dose. So it's jape, I think, first. So I like signed up for jape, but because I wanted to wait till it was closer to the end of when they were taking people for jape, because it can take so long for everybody to get their chance with jape that like it's a very short time. Jape like only lasts like less than 10 minutes in the body. I want it like in this, like as an experience, I want to say. So I wanted it to hit me as the lights were going back off again. That's what I really, really wanted. And so anyway, so I try to like wait it out, but at one point I get called for jape, or sooner than I'd like, or I volunteer for jape. And when I go up, I crushed it night two. Like night two, my jape, I was wicked. Like it's hard to take jape because like I said, it's a snuff. It's like that you take up the nose, and it's like pepper up the nose. It's really hard to take. But the second time I was not as good. I don't know what happened. I just like did not like nail jape like they did the first time. So they call me up for jape, and I'm like, and I kneel down, they do it, whatever, and it just like hits me all hard and whatever. So I have no choice but to come back to my bed, because I think I told you they administer one nostril at a time. The shaman blows up your nose, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I remember being so out. At one point, I'm like out of it, and he asked me something. I'm like, yeah, and he's like, and that's not that like wasn't a yes or no question. He's like, okay. Anyway, they sent me back to my bed, and so here's what happened. So all the fear setting in, because I also realized, like, am I a reptile, right? Am I a reptilian? Because then my mind starts to go, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I a reptilian? Am I a reptilian? Like, and then I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it starts to feel gross because the mind obviously took over so much, but I'm starting to feel like, I don't want to be a reptile. Like, like the human mind is like, no, like gross. But when they catch my attention, they bring me back. I'm like, like I surrender into it again. I'm like, it's so beautiful here. So I'm having this like battle of whatever you want to call it, right? Of identities. But I'm really still in that fearful place of like, especially with the jape stuff. So, or especially with the reptilian stuff. So anyway, so this is where it gets wild. So so then I do my jape, and it's like not hitting the right way. Like none of it's going well. And I have this moment because I'm all in all this fear. This is why I did the jape, because I need to get out of my head, because I was like so just reeling and spinning and spiraling that I'm sitting with my bucket, and again, don't forget that there are like the lights, the candles are on, so 2 little candles are lighting the whole place up, and everybody's doing their thing, and I realize I have to throw up. So I sit up on my bed, at the edge of my bed, and I'm holding my bucket. And it's so funny because we have these like little blue, like, like little mop buckets or whatever, but to throw up in. And as I'm holding the bucket, because of the lights are shining at the front of the, of where the shamans are, right in the center of the circle, or the semicircle, and I'm holding my bucket, the light shining through, when I'm looking inside and looking in my head in the bucket, my nails are like longer than this at the time. It looks like I have reptile hands with the shadows of the bucket, the way I'm holding it. Like, can you imagine? Right? So I looks like my hands look like this, and then my nails look extra long with the shadows. So I look like I have reptile hands when I'm holding the bucket. I'm like, what? Like, why am I a reptile? And I remember like trying to like not hold the bucket so I don't see my reptile hands, but I can't help it because I need to like puke. I'm looking down and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I a reptile? Am I a reptilian? And then this other moment happens where like I need to drink water. And so I had to grab my water bottle. They all gave us these water bottles like with a wide open cap, and I start to open it, and I feel like, again, I have like these reptile hands, like a chameleon hand, and that's all I can see. I just see this chameleon hand. I'm like, blah! Like trying to like not to, I'm like, why am I a reptile? And I'm trying to open the cap, and I'm like trying to drink water, and I like look, my reptile hands are like everywhere, and I just see myself as a reptile. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a reptile. Like I'm a chameleon. I'm like, blech. And it's so yucky to me because I'm just like I don't get it. Like I don't understand. It's scaring me. And so anyway, so I close my lid again. I'm like, blech. And I'm like, okay, don't look at yourself. And then I have this moment where I start to look around, and I'm like, and I start to think about it. I'm like, okay, I definitely know I'm not from Earth, right? Like I remember, like my truth, like I start to really realize that I'm not from Earth. Like this is not just like I remember choosing to come to Earth and like to be a girl and all these things. I'm starting to have really deep memories of like, like, I'm not from here. Like, I'm not from here. And I start to look around and everybody's in their process, right? Some people are throwing up as well, because I started throwing up like crazy. Like, I threw up everything. Other people are throwing up and in their process and like, everybody's like in their world doing their thing. And I start to realize, as I remember, like, as I'm sitting there with my bucket, just holding it and not looking at my hands, and I'm looking around at everybody, and I realized that this is what the medicine is. Like, the medicine is here to awaken us. Like, the medicine is here to help us. Oh my God, I have so many chills. The medicine is here to help us. And I realized, I'm like, oh my God, they're unlocking us. Like, I remember thinking that. I'm looking at Dylan, one of the practitioners, like one of the facilitators, and I'm looking at the shaman and everybody and the way they're helping everybody. And I'm like, oh, and I can't explain it, but I'm like, they are unlocking us. They are literally unlocking us to remember who we are and what we are, and that there is so much more happening here on earth. And I can't explain it, but I know it. I just know I know it. And I think this came later. I remember seeing myself, this comes a little bit later when I go back into the medicine, but I remember seeing myself as Indigenous from thousands of years ago. Like, I remember seeing myself in a past life of literally sitting beneath a pyramid. And so I think I'm in Chichen Itza. Like, that's the only thing I can imagine. Like, but I could be in Atlantis. I could have been anywhere. I don't know how, whatever. I'll leave that up to you. But I remember seeing myself at the base of a pyramid with all of my people. And we're doing ceremony. We're doing ceremony. There's fires and everything. And all of a sudden in our ceremony, in our calling ceremony, we light the pyramid up, and all the grooves in the pyramid start to light up with like all this blue light. Like, you've probably seen that in movies or cartoons or whatever. It goes, and it literally starts to light the whole pyramid from the base all the way up, and then it shoots a huge light all the way through into the sky. And as that happens, I swear to God, we see I want to say like spaceships like descending. Like, I'm not joking. We start to see like, and so then it hits me. I'm like, the Indigenous know. The Indigenous have always known. They've known for so long. The Indigenous know what's happening here. They know exactly what's happening here. And I know now, like, I know. And I just felt like this connection. I've always felt this connection to Indigenous people and to indigeneity and to their fight and their struggle. And I was like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. And then you start to piece things together. And then I start to remember more things. I start to remember like choosing to come to Earth. I start to remember more. Like, I start to remember choosing Chile. Like, my mom is from Chile. And in Chile, there are things called the Moai on Easter Island, the big stone heads. We call them the Moai. And I remember that they were like not placed there necessarily, but that they were left there as reminders of like what else is out there in the world, like as a reminder that we are not the only ones here, as a reminder that there is more here, that we have ancestry and DNA, that we share DNA with beings outside of this realm of consciousness and other dimensions of consciousness. And I remember it. It's a memory. I remember choosing my name, choosing Chile. Like, I start to remember all these things, and later on through the months, I start to remember more, like even choosing my birthday. My birthday to me is like, makes so much sense. Like, when you do your natal chart, like your birth chart, if you can do it, I start to remember, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it just makes perfect sense. Like, if I'm a Leo on my birthday, I'm like, it makes perfect sense. Like, this is who I am. And it all starts to like hit me. And it feels like I left like breadcrumbs for myself. This is the best way I can describe it. It feels like I left breadcrumbs for myself to awaken in this life, to awaken, because we are in the great awakening of humanity on earth. We are in the great shift of humanity's awakening. And that's what we're all here to do. And we've all chosen it. Like, you chose it too. Like, you can think what you want. I understand, I get it. But on some level, you chose to be here. You wanted to be here for what's happening on earth, like, and all the stuff that we're seeing. So this is like literally being recorded in February. What is this today? The February 7th, 2025. And we've already seen a lot of crazy things happen so far. And this is just the beginning, you know, and that we came for it. It's a very exciting time to be on earth, as much as it seems very destructive and all the things that are happening, that we are coming into birth in a new earth, a new planet, a new everything. And I did everything I could to for myself to awaken, including choosing so many things. And then I realized it's not really my family like anymore that like I'm really here for. It actually begins to be this incredibly individual experience, which it is for everybody. I don't care if you're a mom, if you're not, if you're dad, whatever, like who you're connected to, like you come for your own very unique individual experience. It's yours, and it's not, other people in your life are not as relevant as you think. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't have to be taken in a negative light or negative context. It just means that like we all literally come here for our own adventure. That's the best way I can put it. And so I'm in this process of, I'm starting to remember, I'm starting to like, the memories are coming back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much more happening here. I'm not from Earth. I've chosen to come here. Where am I really from? Like, where's my real family in the stars? Like, where's my real, like, you know, if I'm a reptilian, blah, like, what does that mean? And all these things, and it starts to come together, and I see them unlocking everybody, and people, and the more I see people get sick, more they're like, I'm thinking like they're trying to take it away, like take out the fear and like the planet Earthness. I can't explain that. There's a better word that I'm thinking of, but I start to say, like, in my mind, in Spanish, I start to say to myself, la medicina cura, la medicina cura, la medicina cura, like the medicine cures you, the medicine cures you. Nobody said this to me. Maybe it's one of the, in some of the songs that they sing in Quechua or in Spanish. I don't remember hearing it in Spanish, but it was really very much like, oh my gosh, the medicine is healing us. The medicine is making us better. The medicine is helping us. It's helping us to remember. It's helping us to awaken. And the more I saw people get sick, and the more I saw people like whatever, I was like, let it out. Like it's coming all out of us. Like, so we can awaken and we can be here. We can be our strong selves here. Like we can be here. Anyway, it's just like, oh, I have so many memories and like so many chills right now. I feel like it's all coming back. And so that memory, I have that memory of being in that past life again, which beneath the pyramid. Tell me which pyramid, I don't know, but we're all, I feel like maybe Chichen the way it seems, the fires and the people and I don't know, the ceremony that we're in. But again, like I said, it could be Atlantis, it could be Egypt, it could be anywhere, but it's on planet Earth for sure. And you see the spaceships descend, you see the other beings just start to come down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and we've always been connected to them. We have always been connected to them as a species. We've always been connected to them, and none more than the indigenous. None more than the indigenous. And it makes this thing for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, like the way that the world treats indigenous people on this planet is insane. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting to cry here. But it's true, the way that indigenous people have been fighting for their lands and for sovereignty and and to protect like Mother Earth, and to say you just can't gut it all up. You can't gut it all up and buy it all. Like, you know, you can't just do that. And the ways in which that we all allow it to happen, like myself included. You know, I'm Canadian, so I know the way indigenous people have been treated on these lands, and it's not fair. And missing and murdered indigenous women, like you start to like feel this thing where you're like, oh my God, they're just trying to protect it. Oh gosh. And you're just like, they're just trying to protect it. They're just trying to help her, you know? And you know, Mother Earth is her own consciousness, you know, she's come in to do her own exploration of her own kind, you know, like, and she's going through her own process as well. And you understand it. No, you can't explain it. You understand it. You just understand it. And you're like, you just feel connected. And you come into this form of connection, and you're like, oh my God, there's so much more happening here. And the destruction of this planet, the destruction of it, and the way that they have tried to keep corporate like money just off of gutting and destroying the entire planet, because if they don't stop it, who will? Anyway, so I just have this connection all of a sudden where just like, it's not quite like this happens more in night 4. I'm just remembering it, but it's just like, I realized that they know it. They know it, and they've known it for so long. They have known it. They've been trying to protect it, and they have known for thousands of years. They've never lost their connection. And when you realize, you think of some of like indigenous stories, like even like Irish stories, for example, like the fairies and stuff, you start to put together that there is much more happening here. We're not just like in this unique journey like on our own. Like we're not just like spinning off in nothing. Like there's not just nothing happening here. There's so much more happening here. And so anyway, okay, I'm trying to remember where I left off. So I remember a past life. I see myself in this past life. And then it's time for like, so I'm in this process. I'm kind of struggling with the reptilian thing, being a reptile and everything. And so I always get cold in ayahuasca nights. I always get cold in plant medicine. So I'm like a person who's always cold, and that comes from like my culebra thing, like this being the snake, right? Because reptiles like the heat, right? Like reptiles, oh goodness, reptiles like to bask in like in like, you know, the hot sun, and I've always been that way. Like, I don't care how hot it is, I'm not hot. Like, I'm never hot. I'm not cold necessarily. But other people where they're like boiling, I'm like, guys, it's hot. Like, we all knew it's hot. I don't know what it's hot, right? Like, I'm never hot. And in fact, like, even in the summer and stuff, like, I'm never really hot. And even when we went to India, people were like complaining about the heat. I'm like, I'm never hot, and I could bathe in the heat and like be comfortable. Like, I can't explain it. Like, a sauna is a good place for me. Like, I love it. So I'm starting to put these things together. I'm like I'm a cold-blooded reptile. And all these things, and then I started to put things even in my mind. Like, I always had very twitchy ways of sleeping. You know how like reptiles twitch a lot, and like chameleons twitch a lot. And I start to like put these little things together in my mind. Whether they're true or not at the time is just like relevant. But I'm starting to like associate myself with a lot of like reptile behavior, like a lot of myself, like my personal self, with a lot of reptile behavior. My thing is sliding. So anyway, so I get in bed, and I'm freezing because the medicine always makes me cold. So at one point, we're not supposed to do this. I think I mentioned we all have a little headlamp with a little red light on it, right? Which is like so that we can have light without it being overwhelming in like the dark space that it's supposed to be for everybody, right? The shared space. And you're not supposed to shine it at the facilitators in front, the shaman, or anybody. But I'm so cold. I can't remember if we shut the lights off already, but I'm so cold. I feel like, no, we haven't. And I called Dylan, or Dylan is helping somebody. And I asked Dylan, this is later. So that's later actually. So I asked Dylan, who's one of the facilitators. He's Canadian. I like him a lot. And he's like super chill. And I see Dylan, and I ask him like, Dylan, can you help me please? Like, I'm so cold. Can you cover me with my blanket pretty please? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I'm laying like on my belly. I'm laying belly face forward, like on the bed, on my mattress, like on my belly. And I'm like, can you please cover me? I'm so cold. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. He covers me. He tucks me in. It's like all nice, whatever. I'm like, thank you so much. It's like, Dylan, I stop him. He's about to leave, and I'm like, Dylan, I know what you're doing here. Like, Dylan, like, I know what's going on here. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. And Dylan kind of stops, and he looks at me, and he's like, not like that, but he's looking at me like, oh yeah, what are we doing? And I'm like, I know, Dylan, I know. I'm like, Dylan, I know you're unlocking us, Dylan. Like, I know you are, Dylan. Like, I know, like, you're unlocking us. I know you know what's going on, and I know. And so the shaman has like a shaman name, and he has like a English name, a Spanish name, and I was kept calling him by his first name. I was like, and I know Christian knows too. He has a name that we're supposed to be addressing him as, but for some reason in the medicine, I'm like, and Christian knows, and he knows exactly what's happening. Christian knows, and you know that you're unlocking us. I know it. And so anyway, so I'm in my bed looking up at him, and he's looking at me with this interesting, like cheeky look, like, oh, she knows, like she caught on, like she got it. I was like, Dylan, you're unlocking us. You're like unlocking us to wake us up. I know it. And he's like, all right. And I'm like, yeah, all right. So anyway, he leaves. And I'm like, I know, Dylan. So I'm freaking out. So anyway, so finally, we go back in, and as soon as the lights are off and everything, they take me right back in, and I'm in this beautiful, peaceful, quiet place where I can't explain it, but I'm just in space, or I'm in nothingness. I don't know what else to call it, right? Like in the nothingness that is no space and no time. Does that make sense? Like, I'm in no space, no time, and I'm in the nothingness. And in the nothingness, I'm floating, and I can't quite explain it. I can't remember how I get there. I can't remember how I get there. Oh my God. Sorry, just like sorry. I can't remember how I get there. But then I see God. I'm just like, I can't handle this. And I see God. And I'm filled up. I'm sorry, I know why I keep crying and laughing. I'm laughing because I'm laughing at myself. Oh my gosh, adios. Okay, hold on a second. This is so bad.